When someone isn't here anymore to share their story, the next best thing is capturing the voices of the people who knew her. Now June, who would have turned 100 last year, belongs to a generation that's almost vanished, which is why, from the very beginning, my mind keeps going back to that one person who I really wanted to speak to, her nephew, Scott. I dedicated my first video to him, hoping to catch his attention. Oh, I've been busy chasing the others I could think of as well. Children of June's school friends, the last musicians who worked with her, everyone from sound engineers to jazz historians. And that's when I discovered the truth no one tells you about. Researching the life of a person who would have been 100 is like chasing ghosts. Ghosts who politely tell you to call back again next week, and you feel guilty about the lengths you go to tracking these people down, chasing, poking, prodding, because some of these people are vulnerable, you know. I don't want to become a pest or annoy anybody, but you also feel like this clock is ticking, and every time I struck another fruitless name off of my list, again, my mind kept going back to Scott. Since December, I've reached out to over 200 people. Statistically, 1 in 10 replied. And those few replies, many were heartbreaking. I'm sorry they've passed away, or I'm sorry they're too ill, or I'm sorry you're 2 months too late. And then there were the others, the ones who promised to talk, so I kept trying them. For 6 months. It can be wonderful when you secure that rare interview, but on the whole, this experience has been isolating and at some points maddening. But for the sake of your mental health, you have to say, I have to draw a line now. But was I really strong enough to give up on Scott? Last month, I decided this finish line would be my birthday. And I've pushed like crazy to catch as many more people as I possibly can before the 24th of June. Today marks a new chapter for this project. It's done. It's over. Fellow June Christy fans, I've managed to secure 15 wonderful interviews for this video biography series. And now, finally now, I can start scripting the 10 episodes I have planned for you. I guess we have to be strong enough sometimes to walk away from the maybes and the what ifs, right? Oh, Scott. June Christy's very own nephew and closest living relative. I felt like Ahab and Scott, my white whale. Now, what's a birthday without a few surprises, right? Here, fellow June Christy fans, are the 15 people who were kind enough to let me interview them. There's been written correspondence too. Pete Erskine, who shared his memories of playing for June at 18 years old in 1972 and shared some rare photographs his father took of June in rehearsal. Mamie Van Doren, I reached out to her on a complete whim and she shared a wonderful story about seeing June perform at the Crescendo in West Hollywood. Stephen Harris, author and historian, expert on the Stan Kenton Orchestra and much more. He's helped me fact check and been a wonderful sounding board. Oh, and Angela Levy, widow of drummer Stan Levy, who exchanged some very sweet, very loving recollections with me about June having been one of her most beloved girlfriends. Ladies and gentlemen, my 15 interviews, a taste of the voices that will join us on the 10-episode series. And now, I can start scripting the 10 episodes I have planned for you. Mike Vax, trumpet player who worked with June in 1972.
Even though she was nervous, she was happy to be back with the band and Stan. And she was very nice to the guys in the band, you know. But we did all get to talk with her a little bit and say hi and all that kind of stuff and hang a little bit.
Nancy Sue Barbour, widow of Ross Barbour of the Four Freshmen and friend of June.
She was pretty shy, and especially, that first time we saw her because she had just started performing like that, and so she was pretty shy. But then later she wasn't.
Pete Kreislieb, saxophonist, the once student and friend of June's husband, Bob Cooper.
I didn't realize how sick June had gotten, but June was, by this time, she was kind of incapacitated, and I could hear her machine running. And when Bob and I were playing together, she had I'd hear talking, well, you guys, you ought to do this, and it sounds great there, and blah, 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 so she would...
Terry Vosbein, composer, educator, author and creator of the All Things Kenton website and the Stan Kenton Research Centre.
Kenton wasn't just a jazz star, he was a medium jazz star. He was a pop star. In 1948, with June on the band, he took in more money at the box office than anybody in the country. More money at the box office than Frank Sinatra or anybody touring act at all. And he was doing progressive avant-garde jazz. June Christy was singing those crazy Bob Gratinger and Pete Rugolo arrangements that she hated so much. Yeah, it wasn't her thing. And yet they were making money. They were the first jazz artist act to take over $1 million in the box office in a year.
Ken Poston, renowned radio host and director of the Los Angeles Jazz Institute.
As far as June is concerned, as far as kind of the quintessential West Coast jazz vocalist is her by far. Going back to the roots coming out of Kenton, like so many of them did. Not only the marriage to Coop, but the fact that she was one of that little circle of the musicians who established and defined the West Coast jazz sound. So I think her voice is the voice of that West Coast jazz period by far.
Gail Ciraolo, For Freshman fan and friend of freshman Bob Flanagan.
We'd hear the group sing, we'd hear the four guys sing, and then we'd end up at the bar, and then Bob Flanagan would start to reminisce. He'd have a few pops in him now. And June Christy, she was such a star. She had such a beautiful voice. We all loved her. Little did we know that they'd be all at the bar. They had to carry her to the bed and put her to bed more than once. And cover her up and say goodnight, kiss her on the forehead, see you in the morning.
Alan Eichler, legendary producer and manager, managing in her later career Anita O'Day.
As we were leaving, I was with Anita, and June Christy and Bob were coming towards us. So we stopped, and Anita and June got to say hello to each other. I don't think they'd seen each other in a long time, or if ever. And she was very tiny and very frail. I'd heard she drank a lot in her later years, but that's hearsay. I can't say for sure. And he was almost holding her up. I can't tell if she was drinking or not, but she was very tiny and thin and just clutching onto Bob Cooper, for support. It was sad to see her like that.
Marie Delmar, widow of a French concert promoter and friend to June.
Final day of the festival, she was magnificent. When June walked on the stage, something happened. Something changed. On stage, she was like a goddess. But backstage, she looked so tired. I never forget the moment I see her speaking to Bob Cooper in the refreshment tent. She was looking worried or sad, and then she put her head on Bob's chest. June said something like, I was okay. And Bob said, No, you were wonderful.
James Gavin, New York Times best-selling author, writing popular biographies on iconic jazz performers, and fellow June Christy devotee.
June was a master of the art of the album. We can point to many of those albums that are beautifully shaped, clearly a great instinctive sense of what would work for her. I asked Pete Rugolo when I interviewed him if June chose those songs or if he chose those songs. People did give songs to June, but the perspective in the June Christy repertoire is so distinctive. Her attraction to melancholy songs is undeniable. Underneath the famous sunshiny facade of June, the California blonde, the big smile, I felt that there had to be some hidden pain in there for her to be able to sing sad songs so movingly, like Willow Weep for Me is a beautiful recording. And that hinted at something that got my attention.
Thomas Erb, much adored saxophonist with the Cedar City Jazz Alliance, university music professor at Southern Utah University, and importantly for our channel, Maynard Ferguson, researcher, archivist, and expert.
June and Maynard were playing together in the Blue Room in the Tropicana, 1966. While Maynard was away at a gig, the guest house that they were living in at the time actually caught fire and burned down, and they lost almost all of their possessions and moved across the country basically. And Maynard accepted a 6-week gig at the Tropicana in Las Vegas. And so I know for certain that for 2 weeks, June and Maynard were playing together in the Blue Room in the Tropicana every night, probably many shows a night, and rotating through. And that when June was singing, Maynard was still the band leader and would introduce the tunes and joke around.
Francois Breval, French journalist and 1985 Montreux Jazz Festival attendee.
Bob Mulder, he say deplorable health. And you ask me again, so I am angry. We arrive, we wait for this poor woman to be wheeled on the stage, he say deplorable health. And then June come on stage like a grande dame, elegant, white jacket, stage presence. The public, they go wild. They're clapping their hands, shouting, bravo, 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 Willow Weep for me was beautiful. It was a very new version, like a blues, a sexy, modern version. She is singing well and looking great. And yes, she's older, but not deplorable health. She's, You ask if Bob Mulder was right? No. Bob Mulder was never right in his life.
Ted Ono, famed jazz producer, jazz historian, and he shared his very personal memories of June's time in Japan, including how, due to a communications error, they ended up having to use poetry to pad out June's show.
She came to Japan 1961. She somehow thought all she was supposed to do was sing for 15-20 minutes. Even if she was a headliner, she only wanted to sing 6 songs. Promoter said, so what? So this is the first set? No, this is it. This is it. Just 6 songs. The promoter said, we expected the June Christy concert. So that's when they had to rescue. So Bob Cooper's band at least played 15 minutes of the first beginning. And they're going to break, and they hired some poet to write poetry based on those 6 songs June was going to sing in a hurry, like a 2-day notice. Someone has to write the poetry.
Robert Gordon, author of the invaluable book West Coast Jazz, giving us insights into the iconic jazz bar The Lighthouse and the Hermosa Beach scene.
Shorty Rogers was saying that on their Sunday sessions, they used to have sessions that ran from 2 o'clock in the afternoon till closing time, 2 o'clock at night. I don't know if June ever, even sat in at there. She might have, because her husband was one of the original. Shorty said that sometimes on one of those sessions, maybe a couple would wander in from the beach, didn't even know about the lighthouse at that, in the early days, and they just heard the music because they'd leave the doors and windows wide open, so it'd be blasting out on the street. And a couple might walk in their bathing suits, from a day at the beach, and sit down and say, "Oh, that's pretty good. I like that." And Shorty said at 2 o'clock in the morning when they're closing up, there's that same couple still in their bathing suits.
Vicky Housley-Wolf, friend to our channel, and daughter of June Christy's high school sweetheart, sharing a loving scrapbook of friendship and correspondence between her father and June that spanned over 4 decades.
Oh no, Jim Davis went to high school with all of them.
Are you kidding me?
No, Jim Cousins,
What?
Jim Davis, yeah, and June Christy. They all went to Decatur High School. She graduated a couple years before he did. I know they played in this band together, the Ben Bradley band. So then, of course, there's, other opportunities for them to spend more time together. When she first started playing away from home, I think some of the things in the scrapbook were about her making the recordings and joining the Stan Kenton Orchestra. And she sent him autographed pictures to give to people, articles, newspaper, the actual original photography that was used in newspapers. And I don't know why she would have picked or chosen him to do that if there wasn't something special going on. After my parents' divorce, my mother bitterly told me once that his only real love was June Christy, and that nobody else would compare with her. And she feels that was part of the problem in their marriage. When he moved in with us, when he was getting quite ill at the end, the box with the scrapbook was one of the things he wanted to bring over to my house. And it was at that point that he actually opened the box up and we looked at some of it. When we were going through the scrapbook, he said, we dated briefly. There must have been some kind of a connection. I think maybe it was private. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I think there might just be one more person who wants to say hello.
I was really pleased to run across YouTube and notice that there is a series put together by Al Pater that is dedicated to the memory of my Aunt June Christy. Believe me, this got my attention because there's just not that much out there on the web that's particularly reminiscent to me because I came around in her latter career anyway. But this is cool, and I really hope that you enjoy seeing what he put together. June would have been just shocked, I think, to the core at how her legacy did live on after she honestly thought that she was past her prime because she wasn't selling so many records toward the end of her life, and it was before the CD craze. And when that happened, and now that we have this online, all of these vignettes that are appearing on YouTube, this is just special to me. I think she would absolutely adore it, and I hope you enjoy it too.